Duncan Cartledge Online. Insights for construction professionals. Welcome to this special episode of the Duncan Cartledge Online podcast, the online resource for construction professionals. Duncan Cartledge Online offers more than 9 hours of video presentations that's available 24/7 for just £7 a month. Please remember to subscribe to your usual podcast provider so you don't miss out on any updates, and be sure to visit our YouTube channel for additional content. It's great to have you with us again for another episode. As always, I'm joined by Barney, my red Labrador, who helps keep an eye on things and occasionally offers some invaluable advice. Both Barney and I would be delighted if you could take a moment to write a review. Your feedback really does mean a lot to us. If this is your first time listening to a Duncan Cartledge Online podcast, welcome. Please remember to subscribe and catch up on our previous episodes. To our existing subscribers, thank you very much for your continued support. Please help us by spreading the word about the podcasts. In this special edition, Barney and I will just be posing one question. Collaborative construction. Just how far have we come? About 20 years ago, I wrote a book called Procurement of Built Assets, which involved interviewing a variety of people and organisations advocating greater collaboration in the procurement of building work of all sorts. This was only a few years after the publication of the Latent report, which urged construction to adopt a more collaborative approach to construction procurement. Construction is thought by some to be unique, and therefore unsuitable for the introduction of management techniques common in other sectors to promote collaborative working. The uniqueness, it is claimed, is characterised by the bespoke nature of the product, a proliferation of small firms forming temporary alliances resulting in little common vision and leadership, the separation of design and construction. To quote Sir Harold Emerson, in no other important industry is the responsibility for the design so far removed from the responsibility for production. In addition, there's uncertainty due to variable demand and fierce competition created by competitive tendering for work, creating low levels of commercial profitability, sometimes referred to as the race to the bottom. But is construction really that unique? For example, an industry with similar characteristics is shipbuilding. The shipyards of post-World War II Japan were one of the first to introduce supply chain management into its processes in the 1950s, despite, like construction, producing bespoke products by operations carried out in the open air with large supply chains, and was so successful that the Japanese shipbuilding wiped out the majority of its competitors during the next 25 years. It is reported that Japan spent 6 months planning a new project with the collaboration of the supply chain, and then construction followed that was right first time and delivered to schedule, whereas others started work immediately without supply chain input and spent years carrying out costly reworks and missing delivery dates. The New Engineering Contract, or NEC, was established in 1986 by the Institution of Civil Engineers with an aim to draft a new form of contract to assist in the application of proactive project management. The NEC has an emphasis on collaboration between the parties and is increasingly used across UK projects, particularly in the public sector and infrastructure projects. The updated NEC4 suite of contracts was released in 2017, with amendments in January 2019, October 2020 and January 2023 to include a design, build and operate contract, an alliance contract, followed by the release of the Facilities Management Suite in 2021. NEC4 encourages a flexible and collaborative approach with parties to act in a spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. The collaboration clause sits at the first clause in the contract, setting the agenda for the project, although parties struggle to understand and implement the intent of the drafting. The other major standard form, the JCT suite of contracts, is known for its traditional structure and clear approach to risk allocation. The JCT is widely used in the private sector, particularly for full design and build projects, and allows for a more hands-off approach for the employer, with risk allocated from the outset. Within the JCT Design and Build Contract 2024 edition, the collaboration provision is now included within the articles. JCT encourages the parties to work together and with the project team in a cooperative and collaborative manner, in good faith and a spirit of trust and respect. Previously, in the 2016 suite, this was an optional provision. So, here's a question. On a scale of 1 for no collaboration and 10 for total collaboration techniques, in projects during the past 12 months, how would you rate your organisation? When I address this question to an audience, very few people respond with an answer over 5. A survey carried out by the RIBA a few years ago appeared to show that only 22% of those surveyed employed collaboration techniques on all their projects. The reasons cited for not being more cooperative included client concerns over risk and liability. However, does it really need to be like this? In 1995, Glaxo identified the need for a new laboratory and office building in Ware, Hertfordshire, to enable rationalisation of research and development functions following the merger of Glaxo with Wellcome. The company found a construction industry that was inflexible, reactive, cost-focused, insular, contractual, claims-conscious, inefficient, and with poor profit margins. Does this sound familiar? One of the people I interviewed for my book referred to earlier was Kevin Thomas, the then Director of Worldwide Strategic Planning for GlaxoSmithKline Research and Development, who created Fusion, based on his vision for a new way of working, building in fairness, unity, seamlessness, initiative, openness, and no blame. Apart from the values-led culture, 2 things set Fusion projects apart from traditional construction contracts. The first was the procurement process. In a traditional procurement process, the client identifies the need for work, appoints designers to develop a specification, then appoints a different team to carry out the work. Procurement is generally by lowest price, based on incomplete information, and inevitably leads to arguments over changes that occur during the design and construction process. By comparison, the Fusion approach tackled things differently. The client identifies the need for the work and then appoints the whole team to develop the specification and undertake the construction in parallel. This early involvement means that everybody understands the client's needs and can contribute fully to the project's development. It creates a team focus on the client's needs from the outset, which makes it possible to absorb changes as the work progresses. The second difference was the way in which decisions were made and communicated. By adopting a parallel design and construction approach, decisions are targeted to the needs of the installation program rather than all being taken unnecessarily at the beginning. A project board made up of users, site specialists, company advisors, and project managers works with the implementation team to manage the scope of the project, based on the client's evolving needs. The implementation team develops, implements, and manages expectations. Close collaboration between the two groups ensures that the implementation plan meets the client's objectives and that changes in scope can readily be taken on board. Cost certainty is assured by everybody having access to a single project budget, which dynamically reflects decisions that are made. As a result, the new laboratory and office buildings in Ware posted savings of 18% on cost and 40% on time compared with traditional procurement, with snag-free handovers, and what's more went on to win Contract Journal's Single Project Partnering Award. So, what happened to Fusion? Well, it lives on, sort of, as Kevin Thomas was involved in the development of the Integrated Projects Insurance (IPI) model, which was included in the government's 2011 construction strategy and the construction playbook, as one of a series of new, more effective procurement models designed to move away from siloed adversarial behaviour towards a more collaborative environment. The IPI model is underpinned by a form of single project insurance and a new alliance contract. This covers an alliance where the client sits alongside the design and construction teams for all risks, including third-party liability, delay in project completion, cost overruns, and latent defects for 12 years. I have commented on the lack of latent defects insurance in the UK on previous podcasts. IPI adopts collective sharing of project opportunities and risks, with a commitment to no blame, no dispute between alliance participants, maximising the potential for gain share. However, as with Fusion, IPI has not been widely adopted by the UK construction industry, with only a handful of demonstration projects being undertaken. It would appear that collaboration is too scary to contemplate, so we'll just stick with confrontation, as it's easier. Well, on that happy note, that's all for this special episode. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you for listening right through to the end. Barney and I think that your stamina is outstanding. This has been another podcast from Duncan Cartridge Online. We'd really appreciate it if you would help us by spreading the word, subscribing, and, if you have the time, writing a review. Until next time, thank you for your continued support and take care.